Let's go. So StakeWise V3. Many things have been spoken about it, but we can finally show it off. Uh, just for a quick refresher, StakeWise V3 introduces a novel architecture for liquid staking and staking in general. It's comprised of essentially two main components. One is vaults, which are customizable staking contracts that anyone can deploy for themselves or for others to stake in. So these handle the flows of Ether into staking and out of staking and distribution of rewards and really the whole sort of staking logic. And vaults can be deployed by anyone and connected to any node. So think of it as staking pools, of whatever size, starting from 32 ETH up to potentially millions of ETH that can be deployed from any wallet and connected to any node running Ethereum clients. And so from any vault that is deployed in such a way, stakers can mint a liquid staking token to access DeFi with their stake capital. As it's saying here, there's fungibility. That's just a single layer of fungibility across the StakeWise ecosystem. In just human terms, this means that everyone mints the same liquid token, and the token therefore benefits from the, let's say, the network effect of different people across different nodes minting the same ERC20 to access DeFi. This naturally just opens up access to liquid staking to anyone with their own kind of staking infrastructure, no matter how big or small. But of course, it also allows stakers without this infrastructure to choose the stake terms on which they stake. And we'll dive into this in a moment. So as a staker, what you can get with StakeWise V3 is essentially a marketplace of various vaults that are deployed by different entities, communities, DAOs, and of course, just individuals. If you stake in these vaults, you are starting to stake on the nodes of these vaults. So to give you an example that we have here, let's say Foundry deploys their vault. And if you deposit ETH into it, you start staking with Foundry. You benefit from the yield that the Foundry node generates when running validators, but also the slashing risk that you take or penalties that you take are connected only to Foundry. So this is a difference compared to the existing StakeWise pool, where this risk is kind of spread out across multiple operators. In here, you can see that there can be many different pools, but if you stake in a specific pool, you are actually connecting your yield and your risk to the specific pool. Other pools do not really affect you. However, if you see that someone running just a single staking company or organization running a vault on their own is a risk, or you would like to just diversify the nodes, you can actually go and pick maybe something else. Maybe you would like to stake in the ETH Staker pool. So, let's assume that ETH Staker launches a vault where solo operators are running all the nodes, all the validators that are being created for this vault. Then you can actually diversify your stake across multiple operators. And really what I'm driving at is that no matter what your desire is, when you come and want to stake your ETH, you have you have plenty of choice for how you can do this, starting from operators, starting from fees, starting from MEV strategy, and a plethora of other parameters we will get to in a second. Our goal is to make sure that choosing these vaults is actually pretty straightforward by using the vault score. So this is the circle with a number that you see in the top right corner for every card here. This is supposed to reflect the performance of the vault as well as some additional parameters, like whether it has been stealing MEV, whether it's been using additional collateral to support the vault against slashing. Maybe it's been doing something else that we can track on chain. So this is all reflected in the vault score. And yeah, with this marketplace, we actually create a variety of choice for you, where you can optimize for safety if someone is running DVT, or for performance if someone is running a specific relay and is using low fees, or maybe for ethics if you would like to have no toxic flows with your relay, and for some of the proceeds of the vault fees to go to charity. It's really up to you. And this is why we say that this is staking on your terms. And the good thing is that anyone can deploy a vault. If you think that you have a distribution channel, if you think that you can run nodes for other people, you can create your own vault, set some parameters for it, and start staking ETH that comes from other people, and take a cut from it, known as the staking fee in the vault. So for you, it's a really simple way to monetize your node running experience and your distribution channel, and make sure that others have more choice in who to stake with. Collectively, we can get a more decentralized network where people who couldn't previously easily deploy nodes for others, or couldn't stake on the specific terms that they wanted, finally participate in liquid staking. However, where does this liquid staking part come from? Let's look at the osETH part. So osETH is a liquid staking token that is fungible, i.e. Can be minted from any vault created in the StakeWise network. The StakeWise DAO, we suggest that the StakeWise DAO is the one that develops the ecosystem of liquidity and integrations for the osETH token, much like DAO has been incentivizing liquidity for SETH2 and RF2 tokens. And the idea that if we get osETH into the ecosystem, like if we integrate it deeper into the ecosystem, then there is going to be a very strong LST that can be minted from any node that would allow people to participate in DeFi from vaults that give them staking on their terms. And this is powerful because to this date, liquid staking has been somewhat of a centralizing force on Ethereum, owing to the fact that most of the liquid staking protocols run with permissioned node sets, and the same operators keep getting bigger. And solo stakers really have no choice in, let's say, they have a trade-off rather in whether they want to support the network for decentralization purposes, or whether they want to participate in DeFi. Now they finally no longer need to do this trade-off. They can participate from their own node. But more than that, any organization or staking company or DAO or a collection of individuals can start running nodes for themselves, or partnering with staking operators from the StakeWise community and from the broader Ethereum network to achieve their goals in staking with the specific terms that they set for the vault, while also having access to DeFi. So this kind of modular system we have learned is pretty powerful to make sure that we don't create a centralizing force for Ethereum, but also to give people more control over how their capital is staked. And this is amazing because you essentially become your own bank, which is crypto's number one use case, really. Coming closer to like very specific ways that you can utilize StakeWise V3 for your needs, we have thought that we need to highlight 4 main terms. And I'm going to start with perhaps the further to the left one, which is liquid staking with a public vault. So a public vault, you can think of it as a vault that has been deployed by some node operators, where anyone can deposit their ETH in order to get it staked. The node operators, they are essentially set terms. So they would probably want to optimize for certain features just to make sure that they are attracting capital into this vault. So you will probably have a choice among the different vaults where you can optimize for either profitability or for stability of performance or for decentralization, or maybe all of these things at once. And you can see that the way that this would work is you would stake ETH from your wallet into the public vault. This would get staked on the terms that are set by the node operator because it's a pre-existing vault. And then at any moment, you could make this stake liquid with osETH. So it's an option to mint a liquid staking token to go access DeFi with your stake. What is the reason we split out the minting of the liquid staking token from the moment that you deposit ETH into just a separate thing? Well, there are two things that we noticed. First is that not everybody uses their liquid staking tokens in DeFi. And this really leads to the fact that some people get a tax event, which is not favorable. And secondly, that people overpay for their staking experience. So actually, they pay a fee to the DAO for a service that they don't use. Meanwhile, they could be staking any amount of ETH in vaults without the liquid staking token in case they never need to use this staking DeFi. And so minting osETH, we decided to make it optional. What we also did, if you have been following the spec of StakeWise V3 before, is made it an option for vault deployers to skip the VLT token creation. And actually now vaults can be tokenless internally. So the internal accounting for how flows are handled can now feature no token at all, meanwhile preserving the ability to mint osETH. And again, this has been done to make sure that if a vault is deployed and people stake into it, it doesn't trigger a tax event for them. We actually see that this is a pretty big benefit for many of those who have been keeping their ETH on the sidelines precisely because they are afraid to trigger a tax event, for which they're not prepared. So that is one big way to get started with staking on V3. Now, the second card here, I'm going to talk about the private vault. And this is really for people who are staking large amounts of capital. So definitely not for everyone, but such an option exists. The idea is that you create a vault and then you connect it to the node operators of your choosing. So it's not the node operators who decide the staking terms, but rather it's you who decides the staking terms. And your choice varies widely. So anything from fee operator to MAV strategy, to again this optionality with tokenless or token based vaults, where you can stake any amount and always have the opportunity to make the stake liquid with osETH. So this is option number 2. The reason why we think that this is more advantageous for people with larger amounts of capital is because, of course, it's easier to get bespoke terms with the various node operators if you have larger amounts of ETH to stake, because this is essentially a business case for them. Then we move on to the third option, which is liquid solo staking. And this is something we want to really popularize among people in DeFi because they can start controlling their stake to the full extent and really kind of accessing all of the typical financial services without going to any sort of third parties and without relying on other people's sort of physical actions like node running. So the idea is that you can create a vault for yourself So again, like deploy a staking contract that will handle all the staking flows and run nodes for it on your own. So define everything that touches how this node is run and have the stake liquid. So previously, you really had to entrust your stake to somebody else, to some other node operator, to get stake capital that you can use in DeFi. This is no longer the case. You can now liquid stake from the safety of your home node. And running a node at home, some people think it's a daunting experience. While this can be true, it should not be really daunting. And so two things to note here. StakeWise is finishing our own node running software that automates the full process of running nodes and really makes the full experience as smooth as possible. I mean, it's easy to say, but basically wait until you use it to see that this is actually true. But even before, and say in addition to this, we're working with people like DAppNode who supply both the hardware and software to make solo staking easier, to let you run up to 150 validators just from the safety of your home. And the good thing is that in such a case, you can access your node while traveling. You can still control how your node is running while being away from home, because there's a way to connect to it from a distance. But despite this fact, you would be getting the home staker experience, where you fully control the outcomes on for your stake, and you make it liquid to go to DeFi and do farming, leverage, restaking, or other things. Finally, for people who don't want to bother with any of the node running or choosing their own operators or their own terms, if they want just a standardized experience, like the basic service that has been available on StakeWise V2 until today, I mean, still available today, frankly, and in other places in DeFi like Lido or Frax or Rocket Pool, they can get the osETH token directly and go use it in DeFi. We think that this is for people who definitely want to use in DeFi, because otherwise, if you don't do this, you're actually paying some extra fees on your staking on your staking rewards, and perhaps not maximizing the sort of performance of your stake, because osETH captures the average from all of the vaults in StakeWise. So if you want like a simple, straightforward liquid staking experience to go use DeFi, then probably swapping ETH directly for osETH is for you. But if you don't necessarily want this, then you should definitely consider going for a vault marketplace and staking to one of the vaults. Okay, so we have been fortunate to work with like really, really cool partners throughout the closed testnet and beyond. So these are the guys that have been supporting us, and we're really look forward to having them on mainnet as well. And yeah, if everything goes well, then it's likely that these will be the different operators that you will see in the marketplace, either working alone or together to provide you the staking services. This is not the exhaustive list, so there are definitely more people in the pipeline that we're trying to work with, and there are tests and there are diligence processes involved, but at the very least, we have been doing our best just behind the scenes to bring the best of the best to the marketplace. And yeah, with this, I suggest we just dive into the product to quickly learn the ropes of how to do all these different things, and yeah, actually figure out how it works step by step. I'm going to pause here for a second just to see if anyone raises their hands or if there have been any comments. Just going to quickly stop sharing my screen to go for this. Let's see. If someone has a question, please raise your hand. Hey, I think you can now speak.
Yes, hello.
Hello. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So I had a question. First of all, when V3 does launch, um, I do plan to deposit in vaults, and I'm not interested in the OS Ethereum. So that's I'm glad you guys did make it optional. Uh, but what I wanted to ask was, um, when V3 is finally launched, how will the migration happen? Like, will I have to swap my Ethereum via like Uniswap, for example, or will I be able to just burn it for regular Ethereum for a transaction fee?
So I think we're going to enable, both a direct redemption. So just going direct from SETH2 and RF2 tokens into ETH and into just like directly into the OG StakeWise vault, from which you can mint osETH if you want, or if you want to unstake at a later date. But basically, it will not feature going for Uniswap. It will be just internal to StakeWise.
So basically, what you're saying is, um, it will be internal on the website where everyone who still has Ethereum 2, they'll be able to. Most likely, I assume there will be a gas fee or transaction cost, but they'll be able to burn that for regular Ethereum to be able to start using in the vaults or wherever they want to use it. Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct.
Okay, that's great. Just because the right now, I was always very confused because I'm waiting until V3 launches to swap back to Ethereum because when I first staked, it says that Ethereum and Ethereum are at a 1-to-1 ratio, but really,
Right.
when you look at the price of Ethereum, it's slightly lower than Ethereum. So when when you do a Uniswap swap, you're really technically losing money. So that's why I was curious if that would be integrated once V3 launches.
Absolutely. So we have always maintained that SETH2 and RF2 are redeemable one-to-one for ETH because they are like all the ETH that's in the validators that's being staked is mapped one-to-one onto the tokens. And if you go for Uniswap, you pay a trading fee, plus you don't redeem at let's say the underlying value, but rather
Right, right.
you sell
But
at
there's
the
no
secondary
option
market
right
value.
now. Yeah, because
And this is the only
there's no
option right
option
now.
right. Yeah, exactly. If there
Yeah,
was an option
that's right.
to just redeem it on the site, that would be a different story. But I think I also had one other question, just real quick. Uh, when say I have 10 Ethereum, what would I be able to technically would I be able to make a vault where other people can deposit, and basically if there's 32 ends up being 32 Ethereum in there, does that create a validator node, or is that not how it works?
Yes. So as long as this vault that you deploy and where a total of at least 32 is collected, is connected to a node. So if you connect the vault to a node, either it's going to be your own node or it's going to be, let's say, someone in the community running the node for you, or maybe it's going to be a group of people that are running nodes in parallel through a technology called OBOL or SSV. You are going to stake that 32 amount as a validator and start earning staking rewards from it. That's right.
Okay, well, if I say though, if like for example, I have about around 10 or 11 Ethereum, if I put that in a
Mhm.
vault, I'm not the node operator, obviously, right? I would just be adding to the vault, and once it hits 32 Ethereum, there will be a node. There will be someone operating that node. Like
So
who?
um,
Yeah.
maybe let's make a distinction. So a vault is think of it as a bank account, right? So if you get enough ETH on it, this money is going to be used to launch a validator. So let's say that the validator is launched by like when I say a node is something that like connects to the blockchain. And so a validator must be run on a node. So if someone is running a node for this vault, it means that there is already a connection between, let's say, the money that's waiting to be staked and the node on which this money can be staked. So as long as you have this connection, so you've sorted this out before depositing ETH. Once the vault collects 32 ETH, a validator is going to be launched. If you don't connect this to some node operator, this ETH is going to sit in the vault. You can still mint osETH, but it actually will not be staked. It will not be earning anything.
Okay, that makes sense. So basically, I make a vault, I put in, say, 10 Ethereum, and then say someone deposits another 22 Ethereum, a validator will be created, is what you're saying.
That's right. As long as it's connected to someone
as
running
long
a
as
node.
it's connected to running a node. Okay. And then the last quick question I just have is, if I put, say I create a vault myself and I put a 5% fee, where does that fee go to? Where does the fee for those staking rewards go to exactly? That's what I'm a little bit confused on.
So you actually decide, let's say if you deploy the vault, you decide where this fee is going to land, like on which address.
Right.
And it's completely up to the node, up to the vault creator.
So so those fees, for example, I could put the address as my address, for example.
That's right.
Okay, so like if I create a vault and I put a 5% fee, I know you can make it 0%, but if I say put a 5% fee and anyone who deposits in my vault and stakes in my vault, I'll get 5% of their staking rewards. Is that correct? If I put my address as the recipient.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Very, very interesting. Okay. I believe that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Those were wonderful questions. Thanks, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm going to move you back to the audience. Okay.
Okay. No problem.
Okay. Thank you. Let us know if you have any more questions down the line. Just raise your hand.
I will.
Okay. So, any more questions? I think this was really comprehensive. Thank you for the Dark Knight, true savior. Okay, I guess let's continue with the public demo. Right, Jordan, please confirm if you can see my screen. I'm assuming that you guys can see my screen. Otherwise, I'll probably get pinged by someone. So let's start with a demo. What we have on the StakeWise V3 interface is 3 different sections. One section is stake, another section is vaults, and the third section is operate. So if you remember liquid staking with public vaults in the vault marketplace, this is the page to do this. So once you land on here, connect your wallet. I'm going to be using MetaMask for this time around, and I have this like number of various vaults where I can stake. So naturally, pretty difficult to choose, which is what I'm going to be using a score for. You may notice that the score is not here yet. And this is one thing that we would like for everyone to pay attention to. We will be creating a discussion on what, besides the operational performance and MEV stealing, can be included in the score. By the time mainnet launches, the score is likely going to feature just performance and whether the vault has been stealing MEV, and it's going to be, some amount out of 10 for the score. However, we want to amplify this, and we want to add additional components to the score, and we want everyone to participate. And we will be also driving the communication from node operators and vault runners for just feedback on what they think the score should be, just to make sure that their opinion is also heard. And collectively, we want to build this into like a more comprehensive scoring model over time. But it's going to be based on operational performance. So the thing that you will notice is that there's always like a title for a vault, and there's always a description. So this is something that you can go by when choosing a vault. So let's take a look at Headquarks vault, for example. So they're talking here about the strengths that Headquark have in the staking industry. So they have a full range of services that they provide for over 40 mainstream public chains. They're global, and they seem to really well just based off the API. You can take a look at what actions have been performed in their vault in this section. So people staking, unstaking, and also the validators that really give you like a good overview of how much APR is each of their validators earning. In the bottom, you will find the details like the staking fee, like the maximum capacity of a vault, because some vaults can be set to a much lower capacity because they're run by solo stakers whose infrastructure may not handle 2 million ETH staked. So pay attention to this when you're choosing. But overall, this information here gives you a very, very good overview of the actions of other stakers, whether they're putting money in or leaving the vault. The overview of different APRs. It seems like I'm not sure there's any view on Girly. It seems like some additional ETH got thrown into this vault, and this was picked up. Yeah, if you go by these parameters, it will give you a good indication of what the vault is like. Now, let's think about a situation where you want to be really like finding the appropriate vault. You can use the think mechanism here in the top right corner, where you can sort by either score, APR, or TVL. So whatever you think is going to give you essentially an upper hand in finding the right vault, you can choose between these things. As more vaults appear, what we will be doing is creating essentially custom filters where we will be segregating vaults by various parameters and grouping them into essentially lists, so that if you click on the custom filter, it's going to show you things that are very specific to this filter. So maybe this will be vaults focused on decentralization. Maybe it will be vaults that have been experienced the largest increase in TVL in the past time. Maybe these will be vaults that are run by charity organizations and so forth. And yeah, with this, this marketplace is going to resemble like a true marketplace over time rather than just a list. For any deposits that you made into the different vaults, you can always see them in here. You can see that mine is empty. So let's go and try and do a deposit. Let's pick Republic Crypto's vault. So let's see, reliable infrastructure and multiple networks that they support. So that looks all right. Let's see, someone claims some ETH. So somebody unstaked, essentially. Interesting. Well, we know that people have been testing this, so no surprise. Let's click the stake button. So here, naturally, I can just commit any amount. I can start with this. Yeah, and you can see that the amount of ETH staked I have in this vault will have, updated here. The model on the left-hand side really shows you the changes. And let's say I want to stake 5. And I'm going to stake. Let's see if I can confirm the transaction. Will take a little bit of time to get it processed, but by the end of it, I should really have committed 5 more ETH for this vault. Just let's wait a little bit longer. Okay, transaction completed. Can view it on Etherscan. Thanks. I can clearly see what happened. So in my deposit, this should really be here. Yeah, in my deposits, I will find this vault, and I can come back here at any time and track how much ETH I have staked. You will see that as the staking rewards are being accrued, this amount is just going to grow. And yeah, this is a very sort of simple and straightforward way to capture how much you have. Now let's say that I want to mint an osETH token to make this stake liquid. Oh, okay, maybe just before we do this, let's talk about the fees. So I will not be paying 5% staking fee on whatever I'm accruing from this vault. And I will not be paying StakeWise DAO or anything. This is all going to the vault creator, which is Republic Crypto. Now, let's assume I want to make my stake liquid to use it in DeFi. I will be minting osETH. And so here I actually have, a slider for how much I can mint. You will notice that it doesn't go all the way to my 5 ETH. It actually goes to something like, 90% of it. And this is not, an accident. The reason for this is that osETH is an over-collateralized token. So the idea is that not 100% of the capital that you stake in the vault can be made liquid. And this is done to make sure that vaults that are created at random don't really affect the people who are holding the liquid staking token. Because if we didn't require over-collateralization, if this vault got slashed, I'm sure it won't, but if it did, then the losses would be borne by anyone who's minting osETH, even from other vaults. So we want to prevent this. And in order to prevent this, we require over-collateralization. So let's say I want to mint 2 osETH. So I know that this is the amount of capital I want to use in DeFi. And you can see that on the left, this will be reflected in my position. We say that it's healthy. I'm going to get back to this in a second, but yeah, there's nothing else to do for me besides minting. But before we do that, notice the conversion rate. So we need to talk about osETH. osETH is a repricing token, which means that its balance doesn't change as rewards. Its balance doesn't change as rewards are growing, but rather its price changes. So it can be redeemed for more and more ETH over time based on how many rewards I'm earning. So if I mint 2 osETH, CJ like this, if I mint 2 osETH, I'm always going to have 2 osETH, but let's say now it's worth 1.00092 ETH, but over time, this amount is going to grow. So maybe when I redeem it, it's going to be 1.1 ETH. And so bear this in mind that there's not going to be a one-to-one conversion here between ETH and osETH. So if I decided that this is the right amount for me, I'm going to press mint. I'm going to again confirm the transaction. And once it's confirmed, I will have made something like 40% of my stake liquid. And this is something I can go and use in DeFi to farm, lever it down the line, also restake and so forth. Oh, great. I can add it to a wallet. I can see the transaction on Etherscan. Okay, it's all pretty straightforward. You can also see that you have this amount minted over here. So there's going to be all of the, let's say, SWICE tokens reflected in here, as well as ETH. Let's go to operate to make sure that we know how to create a vault for liquid solo staking, but also for hosting nodes for others, essentially making sure that our vault gets into the vaults marketplace. So I can create, let's take a look at what's available here. First, I need to decide the vault capacity. If I set it to a large amount, I will be able to handle large flows without hiccups, but maybe my infrastructure will suffer. So I need to balance, what I can do on my node, with how much I'm expecting to receive, and really set the vault capacity accordingly. The default is infinity, so it's unlimited, but we strongly urge people who will not be running professional infrastructure to host nodes to not set something like 2 million, because if your vault is successful, you can quickly run into troubles with operational efficiency. The next thing is the vault fee. So I can set the percentage of fees that are going to be charged from user staking rewards. So this can be, anything from, 0 to, let's say, 50. But look at this. We have an alert that says that, if the percentage is too large, then it's actually going to hurt people who are minting the LST from a vault. And the reason why we make this alert, and the reason why it's affected, is because the staking rewards in the vault will essentially be cut in half if you're set such a high fee. Like all the while, the osETH liquid staking token is generating an average from all of the different vaults. So because the LST will be a higher yield than your vault, you will see that in the end, you might need to commit more stake to your liquid staking token in order to cover for the difference in yield. And so we always recommend that you actually don't go above 15, 14.99 to make sure that the users in your vault are not really affected by the staking fee. We see that the market rate for staking fees is 5 to 15%, and we see that this is really proper. If you think that the people in your vault are not going to mint a liquid staking token, set whatever vault fee you want. But if you expect them to make their stake liquid, don't set a high fee. If you're a solo staker, I think that the 0% fee will do, but we will take a look at why this might not be the case just in a moment. Next thing to think about is whether you want to enable a vault token. This is the sort of tax consideration that we talked with you about. So if I enable a vault token, this might create a sort of taxable event for people who stake into the vault. However, if you're not concerned about that, and you actually want to have your own ERC20, kind of like an SETH2 token for StakeWise pool right now, you could actually do this, and you can set a name for this as well as a symbol, and you will see it on the first scan and everything. You can really deploy your own liquid staking pool similar to StakeWise today, just like from this vault. This is how powerful it is. But let's say this use case is, let's say, not for everyone. So we recommend you keep it off. The next is whether you want to make your vault private. So this is important. If you want to be the only party that stakes ETH into the vault, or withdraws ETH from this vault, you will keep your vault private. If you want others to be able to deposit in it, you will keep your vault public. So remember how I said that a 0% vault fee might work for you if you're a solo staker. This is only true if you keep your vault private, because otherwise, if you keep the vault public and you set a 0 staking fee, you actually will not be earning anything from people committing ETH on your node. So you might as well charge something from it. It will also affect your stake, but remember that the staking rewards are really channeled back to your address. So, don't be put off by charging a fee from yourself. It's okay. And then finally, just confirm the parameters that you've picked, because you will really not be able to change them later. And so when you click continue, there's this another thing where we need to choose the stuff related to MEV. We have two options: the smoothing pool and the vault escrow. A smoothing pool is something that solo stakers and smaller vaults will appreciate, because it helps you average, keeps a stable average APR based on block production. If you remember, let's say from just how staking works, every validator once in a while can propose a block. And these events, like these occasions, are rewarded way more than just normal validation. And this is actually where a big chunk of the staking APR comes from. So if you want to make sure that you average participation in MEV over time, and your block rewards are, evenly, like you benefit from them basically over time rather than on a one-off basis, you will be choosing a smoothing pool. If you think that you're okay with getting large inflows from block rewards only occasionally, which will make your APR more volatile at given periods of time, you will choose the vault escrow. And yeah, there are considerations about whether you use StakeWise DAO relays for the smoothing pool, and whether you just build blocks on your own or choose any other relays for the vault escrow. So make sure to look at the docs before you decide this. But for most people, we recommend the smoothing pool. And again, this cannot be changed later, so we need your confirmation that you understand that. Finally, you can add some brand to your vault. You can choose a vault name, vault description, and vault logo. So, let's assume that this is public demo vault. Vault description is staking is awesome. And for the vault logo, let's choose, for example, this. We continue. And here you will see the, let's say, the summary of everything that you've chosen for your vault. So the vault admin is going to be the address that deploys the vault. We've chosen the smoothing pool for block rewards for generating APR from MEV. We decided to go with the private pool. I thought that we made it public. Yeah, this is how we made it public. Okay. Yeah, so public, smoothing pool, vault capacity, unlimited, vault fee 3%. And I understand the risks of operating a vault for other people. I create a vault. Again, I confirm a transaction. And in a while, my vault will be created. We're going to wait a little bit, but yeah, we're currently running close to an hour. So I will want to just do a little bit more of a demonstration on how would you connect your vault to the node. And then after that, we're going to chat about, there you go. After that, we will talk about liquidity and the tokenomics. But just to finish this off, you can see that my vault has been created. The only action has been that a vault has emerged on the marketplace, and now I need to set up my validators for it, which means that I need to connect it to a node. So when I press configure, I basically get a bunch of choices. Right now, it's only custom, where your typical solo staking setup or your typical like staking operator setup is going to work. And the only things that we require is that you run an operator service as described in the README over here. We're also going to just dump it down and simplify with an additional guide. And you set some addresses at the moment of creating keys for the validators. So this is important, and we will check whether you've done this correctly. And so once you've gone through the installation steps, you just upload the keys for the validators in here. Super straightforward. The system checks whether everything is set up correctly, and if you've made a mistake, with these things, if you've picked the wrong vault address, or if you've picked the wrong validator fee recipient, whether you did it on purpose or it was a malicious intent, we're going to pick it up, and we're going to require you to upload the right data. And once you've done that, you'll be able to save this. And essentially, yeah, the vault will be officially connected to the node, and any ETH that gets into the vault will be split into chunks of 32 and sent to staking on your node with the validators that you create. So with that, I'm going to I'm probably going to pause. Maybe not. Just one last thing. Stake. This is where you will be converting ETH into osETH. Your typical kind of one-click transaction. But right now, you can see that it's inactive because it needs to be connected to the 1-inch aggregator to make sure that we tap into all the pools in the network for osETH and get you the best price. This is not available on testnet, but it will be on mainnet. And this is where you will do it. There's stake and unstake button, which is super straightforward, so you won't get lost. Now I'm going to stop, and maybe I'll stop sharing my screen just to see if anybody has questions. Okay, Dark Knight, you go.
Yes, I have another question. So I think that was the vault that I made a few days ago on the testnet. I thought it never was created, but you said that it can take up to an hour for it to create.
It should be created as soon as your transaction is confirmed. So really, it's not tied, to a specific up to an hour. Really, as soon as transaction is confirmed on the blockchain, the vault is created.
Okay, that's strange. I don't know why it took so long then. But anyway, my question was: say I put 10 Ethereum in, like I did into a vault, and I made it private, and that's it, and no one else can deposit. What?
Right.
Where? First of all, where would the APY percentage come from? Like where would that percentage come from? Because there's only 10 Ethereum in the vault, or is that not even possible to do?
Exactly. There will be zero APR because this ETH is not being staked unless you get at least 32 and launch a validator.
Okay, so
two
I would have
conditions.
to make it public if I wanted to do that, so that and hope that more people add Ethereum to where it gets to the point where it's at 32 or more, and then I'll start making an APY for the vault.
Exactly.
Right. So, and then let's just say,
or it could be private. Yeah. So just one thing to note that Brian's pointing out here in the comments, it could very well be what, let's invite Brian. Brian, would you like to explain?
Hey, how are you?
Okay.
So yeah, thank you for the opportunity to chat about it. So
yeah,
you
go.
are correct. Yeah. So you're not limited to only using a public vault in order to have to basically acquire the needed 32 ETH. You could actually set a private vault and then whitelist addresses that and trust, or they could be friends or something like that. And I just want to give a shout out. Yeah, I want to give a shout out to this, because this is where StakeWise was initially. They had this concept actually years before, and I think that, if I may say so, I think it's been their vision all along to enable social staking, which is pretty cool. The fact that, hey, get your friends or get people and trust to build a vault together. And so that is another way you could get the needed 32 ETH using a private vault. So.
Okay, so now let me ask you guys a question. So the APY, say you do get 32 Ethereum finally in your vault, is it going to be? It's probably going to be a lot lower than a vault with, say, 3,200 Ethereum in it. Would that be correct? I mean, how does the APY percentage?
It doesn't scale with the number of validators, really. All that it depends upon is, first, whether you have a validator launched. So once you do, you're generating an APR. However, what you must note is that the rewards are split between all the ETH that has been deposited into a vault. So let's say you started off with 32 between you and your friends, and then somebody else deposits 5 ETH on top. Now all the rewards that are generated by one validator are being split not between 32 ETH, but between 37.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that to keep your APR like at the max, you will want to like at lower amounts have evenly sort of sliced chunks of ETH where it's divisible by 32. So like you stake 32, it starts a validator, then you stake another 32, where you get to 64 and so forth. And this is where you maximize the performance, because if there's something in between, this is where this performance might be diluted.
Okay, so the performance might be diluted if it's not if it's not like say 32, 64, 128, or
that's right.
Let's just say 90, 96, etc. Okay, that makes sense.
That's right. Yeah. But of course, once you get to, thousands of ETH, this, extra 18 lying around that is not allocated to a validator yet won't really move the needle on the APR. But on small amounts, it's definitely going to impact it.
Now, do you think it would be more risky to stake with say one of the big, like say one of the top one you had that was giving out like 6 point something percent APY that has a very high total volume? Do you think it would be more risky to stake with them versus creating your own vault, or is there not really much of a difference in regarding risk?
So we can talk theoretically. It's difficult to, let's say with certainty, because it really depends on which node operators we're talking about, and how you're running your node, etc. So
right, it would really only depend if I'm sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to say, I guess to answer my own question, it would really only depend if you guys were somehow compromised StakeWise. It's you guys themselves. If you guys were somehow, the smart contract was somehow hacked or compromised, that would really be the only way that any of these vaults would get like drained, for example. Correct?
Okay, so we're talking about maybe two different things here. Yeah, so in terms of the slashing risk, in terms of the operational performance, let's say the difference in how risky something is going to vary widely, because it comes down to the experience of the operator or the kind of software that they're using. So what we want to do with the software that we will provide, and with software that our partners provide, is make sure that it's safe and simple, right? So we want to make sure that whether you're a solo staker or a staking company, the risk is really the same, and ideally it's low or very, very low. So
that makes sense.
This is the goal, but it will depend on various factors that let's say are not taken into account, like human error, for example, cause of slashing and so forth. So essentially, you can think of it as trusting the node operator to stake your ETH without the slashing, and whether you trust them enough to do that or not. So
right. I guess I mixed up the questions. What I meant by that was not really about the slashing risk, but now I get it. But what I really meant by that was like if you guys were somehow compromised, like hacked or whatever. But what it sounds like, again, based off what you said, whether you put it in someone else's vault or you create your own vault, it seems to carry the same risk.
I think theoretically yes, but you probably just like on a human level trust yourself more. So as long as you can do this yourself, you would probably lean in favor of doing this yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, that's really the question I was getting at. But I'm glad you did answer that other question, because that would be another question I would have. So
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, that was pretty much. I think that was all for now. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I think, yeah, this is well, really important to drive home this understanding of the perception of risk of running your own node versus running somebody else. So thanks a lot for the question. I'm going to move it to the audience now, if that's it. Okay. There have been some things. I'm just quickly going to go through them in the comments, and then we get to liquidity, utility, and tokenomics. I know that we're over time, so I'll keep it short and sweet. There have been, questions, for example, from idea generator. Is it possible to see APR over hypothetical 32 ETH, just to standardize it for validator quality? So I would say that on the Vault marketplace, we probably want to keep the Vault APR just to give people a flavor of what they will actually be getting. But they can look into the breakdown by validator and see that, actually what may be impacting the performance is the fact that, there's more ETH than would be optimal to keep the APR high. So for existing validator, you can see the APR that's, it's an appropriate level in the breakdown, if you remember. And then in the Vault level, the APR is actually diluted. Maybe we can add an alert that says like, hey, so this APR is diluted because there's unbounded ETH in it. But overall, I would say I would personally lean in favor of keeping the sort of headline APR figure for like the Vault level in the marketplace. What would be cool though is maybe the ability to like move your stake from one vault to another, like on the fly, depending on the conditions. So if you see that, let's say you commit a certain amount of stake that you already have in one vault to another vault, if others commit too, and once this happens, you get transferred automatically. But it's just a product desire that's not rooted in any technical expertise. So I'm not sure how possible this actually is. Another question that there is in here is from Blake, which is, would it be fair to say that the risk of staking in vaults will be on the operator level? This is absolutely the case. So it will really come down to how the node is being run. And it's not really on the vault level because the underlying infrastructure and smart contracts, for the vault are the same from one vault to another. So this is an important thing to keep in mind. And finally, there's a question whether there's an urgent mechanism that can be triggered in case something gets compromised to keep funds SAFU. And maybe Dima, the biggest brain I know, my co-founder, can help me answer this. Dima, if you want to come on stage to help me with this.
Hey guys. So the question was whether there is an emergency stop mechanism for the vaults, right?
Yes.
Right. Well, yeah, like our thinking was with that is initially to not include emergency stop because there are some potential problems that can affect depositors, let's say with malicious vault owner. So like in short, as of now, there is no like emergency stop. Rather than you as the owner of the vault, you can stop all the validators, exit them, and Ether gonna land back to the vault. So that's kind of the only way right now to stop operating. And then like once Ether is there, stakers can come back and withdraw it and burn the shares.
Fantastic. Well, hopefully this answers the question, Rango, and Dima, thank you for explaining. I think it's important to keep vaults as, let's say, powerful and powerless at the same time as possible. When I say powerful, it means that, there should be lots of functionality to enable staking for people, but powerless, once you already have the stake, to have very little, let's say, control over changing the most important parameters for the people who have committed even to the vault. And in this case, just pulling the plug on the validators, and paying them is probably the safest and the wisest choice. So this kind of, with this, I would love to close the sort of public live demo chapter. I hope that it's clear that StakeWise V3 enables a variety of new use cases for liquid staking. But over the next few weeks and beyond, we're going to be driving this point home with like very specific messages for various audiences. So don't be surprised to see that in one place we're saying that this is a cool feature about StakeWise, and another place we're highlighting something else because it's on purpose. This is a powerful product, and we want to make sure that we really like convey the benefits of it to the right audiences, like in the right places. But at the same time, yeah, just make sure that the most important use cases, which is just one-click staking, the one that people have come to expect, as well as our premier stuff like vaults and the liquid solo staking are will become a new standard for staking people's ETH. Thanks for all the nice comments in the chat as well. It's really great to see.